Wow, are we lucky to have such wonderful music? That was our own Kristen Says with her friends Lay and Eric, recorded by Paul just a week ago in our beautiful sanctuary. What a wonderful way to start our service this morning. The sound of that and the quality was really wonderful. I'd love to hear it again. Well, good morning. I'm pleased that you have joined us on our Zoom service today. Welcome to West Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Jim Reay, and I'm happy to be leading our service today. Our theme this month is mindfulness. Today, my husband, Mark Oelerking, will be sharing his personal experience with mindfulness. Today is a wonderful opportunity for each of us to consider what mindfulness means to us. How might I choose to practice mindfulness? How important is mindfulness to me? Can mindfulness provide my life more serenity and contentment? What practices might I develop to be more mindful, watchful, aware, wary, alert, attentive, thoughtful, sensible, conscious? We begin our service each week as Paul lights our chalice. Would you please light our virtual chalice now, Paul? Thank you. Flame casts a bright light. May our chalice flame consume our regrets of the past, our fears of the future, and our worries about today. May it light for us a path of joy and peace and mindfulness. Mindfulness signifies being awake. It means knowing what you're doing. The little things, the little moments, they aren't little. A small experience that seems inconsequential can actually create significant impact. We cannot know when a reaction to a friend or a stranger will result in long-term effects. The things that matter most in our lives are not usually the fantastic and magnificent. The most endearing moments are when we touch one another physically and emotionally. Everything that has a beginning also has an ending. If we can make peace with that, then all will be well. Have you ever done something that wasn't quite authentic simply to impress other people? Have you ever gone along with something that didn't feel right out of fear of what others might think of you if you spoke up? There's a story about this you might remember from your childhood. Hans Christian Andersen's The Emperor's New Clothes. It's a fairy tale about two con men who pretended to be weavers and convinced the emperor that they had a magnificent fabric, a magical fabric, with which they could make him the finest suit in the land. The magic of the fabric, said the con men, is that it can only be seen by those who are intelligent and brave. It appears invisible to those who are stupid and incompetent. The emperor, who loves fine clothing, is excited about this magical suit, and he pays the men a handsome sum to get a suit ready for an upcoming parade. After a week, the emperor sends men to check on the weaver's work. When each man realizes he sees nothing, they don't want to admit this. They don't want to appear stupid and incompetent. So Each man lies to the emperor, saying how wonderful the suit is looking. The suit is brought to the emperor on the day of the parade. The emperor sees nothing, but he too does not want to be seen stupid or incompetent. So he agrees that the suit is wonderful and he goes to put it on. The emperor then goes on his royal parade through town in front of his entire kingdom with no clothes on. Everyone in the kingdom sees the emperor without clothes, but again, for fear of being accused of being stupid or incompetent, they all speak to each other about how magnificent he looks. Finally, a child yells out, "The emperor isn't wearing any clothes." Then everyone realizes what is actually true and starts giggling. Then everyone starts exclaiming together, "The emperor has no clothes on." The emperor then found himself standing in the middle of the parade wearing nothing but his pride. We can all probably relate to the story because we all share a common challenge. We humans are tribal creatures. The way our minds have evolved means we will always feel a strong pull to fit in and be part of the pack. We feel compelled to conform rather than risk rejection. Getting kicked out of the tribe in a caveman days of our ancestors meant certain death. It can sometimes feel like a matter of survival. However, this internal pressure to conform means we can sometimes deny our own feelings instead of listening to them. It means we might hold off on challenging the status quo, even if something really doesn't feel right to us. Sometimes we might make decisions and take actions with little reason than the fact that everyone else is doing it. This can lead to all kinds of unwise and unharmful scenarios for ourselves and others, ranging from not standing up to bullying and bad behavior, to conforming to ways of living that are not true to our nature or our deepest desires. Part of the invitation of mindful living is to cultivate more self-trust and authenticity. In other words, mindfulness helps us get more in touch with ourselves and teaches us to trust our own authority and our own direct experience, rather than always relying solely on the opinions, expectations, and experiences of others. It helps us to act from our own integrity and authenticity, even when it's challenging to do so. In what ways might we need to challenge the status quo in our lives? Are there ways we need to speak up or to change things where something doesn't feel quite right for us? And instead of trying to fit in or be like, how can we show up more as our true selves today and every day? May we be encouraged to make a pact with ourselves to not be defined by other people's expectations of us or the desire to simply fit in. Be brave, be authentic, speak out on the things that matter, and most importantly, share the real you with the world. Practice mindfulness. It's time to share our church covenant that is so important to us. As Paul places the slide of our church covenant on the screen, please read it aloud with me. Love is the doctrine of our congregation. The quest for truth is our holy right, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in friendship. Thus, we covenant. It's time for our offering. The purpose of our congregation is to encourage all who gather here to grow more generous in spirit and in action, and in mindfulness. Please use this opportunity to give generously to the important work of our church. You may mail a check to the church or to our treasurer, Mark Oelerking. You may also follow the PayPal link in chat to donate electronically. Thank you, Rocky, for that beautiful music. And thank you for your kind, generous donations to our church. Since Mark is talking about yoga this morning, I cannot resist sharing a few brief yoga jokes. I ran them past Lucy and she laughed, so I hope you find them humorous as well. Why was the woman angry after her yoga class? Because she was bent out of shape. What do you call a bagel that has mastered yoga? A pretzel. And good yoga teachers are appreciated so much because they're willing to bend over backward for their students. 20 years ago, at a church fundraiser, Sandra Mahoney offered a 1-month unlimited yoga certificate at a studio not far from our church. I bid on it, and I got it 20 years ago. I attended yoga sessions 2 or 3 times a week during that month. Unfortunately, something about the new experience failed to create a spark in me to continue. I'm so very proud of Mark for his dedication to yoga. Before the pandemic, I witnessed Mark doing yoga at home and in hotels when we traveled. Despite the pandemic, Mark has made opportunities to get on the floor and perform this healthful activity that has truly become a part of his daily life. Though I do not practice, Mark's yoga experience enhances my life too. I feel some balance simply by following his weekly yoga schedule and realizing how important it is to me. I find peacefulness and a bit of mindfulness as I witness how Mark's yoga calms him and satisfies him. I'm more naturally relaxed by the very fact that I live with a man who practices yoga. I'm proud and pleased to introduce my husband, Mark Oelerking, as he shares his yoga journey to mindfulness.
Thank you, Jim. Good morning, everyone. Some weeks back, when Barry asked Jim to lead today's service, there was no one yet selected to give the presentation. Well, Jim accepted to lead and right away asked me if I cared to speak on mindfulness. Huh? My knee-jerk reaction was to say no. Most of you know me. Doing this sort of thing is not what I do. It is way beyond my comfort zone. Besides, I am not any kind of expert on this stuff. However, on reflection, yes, through the practice of yoga, I have learned something of mindfulness. I can briefly share some of that with you and how it has helped me. A little over a week ago, as I was preparing this, I decided that what I had written was a bunch of rubbish and chucked the whole thing and started over. Well, I kind of felt that same way yesterday, but by then it was too late to start over. So here we are. Let me start off by saying that Reverend Kathy last Sunday and Caden Sheffield the previous Sunday, speaking on mindfulness, are tough acts to follow. Reverend Kathy's talk last Sunday was so thorough and so comprehensible. It really helped my understanding of mindfulness and the different shapes and sizes that it can take. So thank you for that. Almost 4 years ago now, I attended my first yoga class. For some time, I had harbored a curiosity about it, but it just never been motivated or interested enough, I guess, to follow through and actually do it. I can't remember at this point what finally got me to attend that first class. There is a yoga club here in Sun City that offered classes 6 days a week. They were before COVID anyway, so accessibility was not an issue. Anyway, I attended that first class without a whole lot of expectation and to satisfy that curiosity. I went with some nervousness and trepidation because it was something completely new to me. I'm a little embarrassed to say I had not researched it very much. All I really had in my head was seeing pictures of people contorting their bodies in strange shapes. That notorious pretzel, if you will. Would I be able to do it? That first class was interesting, to say the least. And no, I wasn't asked to twist my body into strange shapes. It was taught by a wonderful instructor who specializes in newbies. She was gentle and kind and offered lots of suggestions that she thought might help me. She was introducing me to mindfulness already and told me to listen to my body and respect my own limits. And of course, she had us do lots of breathing exercises. I left that first class feeling, well, I am not sure how to describe it really. Yes, there were the physical challenges, lots of twisting, stretching, balancing, things that externally don't appear like you are doing much of anything, but internally engages muscles in places you didn't know existed. All of that twisting and stretching had taken most of the tension out of my body, but something else shifted at the same time. That something else had affected my emotional state in a way that was undefinable. All I knew is I wanted to go back for more. In fact, I think I did the very next day. COVID sure has changed the when and where of my yoga practice, like it has changed so many aspects of life. A year ago, when all the clubs and studios shut down, I had to take the initiative and start practicing on my own, in the living room, on Zoom, following YouTube videos. Over the months, I have gained access to some outdoor venues, and they have proved to be conducive for practice. Oh, Shavasana in the great outdoors, nothing quite like it. Yoga comes out of traditions born in India. Earliest history goes back to about 3000 BC. From there, it evolves until around 200 AD, when the Bhagavad Gita was written, the earliest and most important scripture of yoga. These scriptures were translated into English from the original Sanskrit sometime in the late 1700s. Contained within the Bhagavad Gita are the 8 limbs of yoga. No presentation about yoga would be complete without a glimpse at these 8 limbs. The first limb has to do with our behavior. These are the things we do to create harmony between us and the outside world. Like don't steal, don't be jealous, don't lie, be truthful. Not a whole lot to disagree with there. It kind of reminds me of the Christian 10 Commandments. The second limb has to do with spiritual practices, like developing a meditation practice and getting in touch with some sort of higher power. Third limb is the asana. Asana is the part that we seem to concentrate on here in the West. The physical postures we do along with stretching the body, and which helps put us into that mindful state of being. Number 4 is pranayama. This is controlling our life force, our breath. Your breath is really at the core of all mindfulness. I will speak on this some more in a little bit. Number 5 is pratyahara. It is withdrawing from your external senses and looking inward. It allows you to observe your emotions without judgment and without distractions of the outside world. Number 6 is dharana, one-pointed focus or concentration. We are actually practicing this when we focus on our breath. Number 7 is dhyana, the meditative state of mind that results when we practice dharana or concentration. And finally, number 8, the samadhi, which is the progression of limbs 6 and 7. And that is peace and enlightenment obtained from meditation and practice of yoga. There are also the Yoga Sutras. The word sutra, translated from the original Sanskrit, means thread. The Yoga Sutras are a collection of 196 short statements offering wisdom and direction. These sutras were compiled by an Indian sage named Patanjali around 200 AD. Patanjali is considered an important figure in the evolvement of modern yoga. People spend a lot of time studying these sutras in the Bhagavad Gita. I have never been a real good student of philosophy, so I have not spent a whole lot of time with these. However, I think there is much wisdom to be gleaned from them. It has been my experience that be it Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, the Buddha offering wisdom, or Jesus Christ in the Christian Bible, often what they are trying to say is the same thing that is just said in a different way. I was given this book for my birthday a couple of years ago. It's 1001, called 1001 Pearls of Wisdom of Yoga. In it are quotes from the sutras and information on everything yoga. A quick, easy reference. I love it. Okay, let's get back to that yoga mat for some asana and mindfulness. Yoga practice usually starts in a comfortable position. Here, we attempt to prepare ourselves for the practice and get centered, and perhaps set some sort of intention or goal of what we would like to gain from our practice that day. It all starts with focusing on the breath. This is the 4th limb of yoga we mentioned earlier, pranayama. Remember that little meditation that Caden had you do 2 weeks back? That was pranayama. Caden also talked about the benefits of the controlled breathing on our nervous system and the vagus nerve. By the end of your pranayama, the body has become calm and the mind has been slowed down. From this calmer state, we move into our physical practice, where all movement is breath-oriented. Movement synchronized with inhalation and exhalation. All the time being in the moment and really feeling what is happening in the body with each movement. Such awareness. I have been physically active in many ways for a long time, walking, running, swimming, biking, you name it. But I had never really paid attention to what was going on in my body. My mind was always racing and thinking about everything else except what I was doing. I was always concentrating on external things, never really feeling or looking inward during all of that activity. I love getting into poses and holding briefly, really feeling where my body is at, all the while staying conscious of my breathing. It's always about the breath. We always come back to the breath. Yoga practice without fail ends with the final pose of Shavasana. I have heard it described as the most important part of yoga and very hard for some. It is a final meditation to appreciate what has happened in your body as a result of your practice, usually done lying on your back and reconnecting with the breath and doing nothing at all for 8 or 10 minutes. Except breathing and enjoying and feeling everything the practice has given you. Letting thoughts come, but letting them go just as quickly. Shavasana for me is probably the deepest meditative state that I can achieve. Most days I don't want it to end. When I have finished my practice for the day, that's something else that I mentioned earlier is what I try to carry into the rest of the day. My body and mind are calm, and negative feelings and emotions that I may have had beforehand have certainly been minimized, if not eliminated. There is that emotional shift that I mentioned earlier. We have all heard of the runner's high, a state of well-being achieved with the release of endorphins into the body. My yogic state of mind is probably different than that, but it is something comparable. Some days it even feels like I have taken a sedating drug of some kind. If I am lucky, I can maintain that sense of peace and calm even after the yoga mat has been rolled up. I find myself slowing down and being aware of my senses. What I am hearing, seeing, even tasting, and being acutely aware of my surroundings. That is when I notice or feel that the world is just moving so fast. I have wanted sometimes to just scream out and tell everyone to slow down. This will not only happen while driving, but anywhere I may find myself. Yoga for me can even take the edge off a bad mood that has no apparent cause. It is certainly a great state of mind to deal with the problems of the day, whatever they may be. Yoga has become for me a real coping tool. I find that when I am anxious, upset, irritated, or anything negative, I want to roll out my mat, do some asana, and meditate. Afterwards, I can at least feel better physically and have a calmer perspective of whatever was stressing me. And that is why, after these years, I am still doing this. Little did I know when I went to that first class that it would transform my life the way it has. As just a final note here, I wanted to share with you that I discovered a great, big, interesting yoga culture out there, a culture that is full of interesting and open-minded people. In the yoga world, you will find people all along the continuum of interest and involvement in yoga. From people strictly interested in the westernized version of yoga, which is pretty much from a physical fitness view, to people that study the sutras and really make yoga a way of life. Not sure where I fit on that continuum, probably somewhere in the middle. A couple of years back, I had the wonderful opportunity to attend a yoga festival in the mountains near Joshua Tree National Park in California. What an experience that was. It was all things yoga. There was constant yoga classes, workshops on yoga philosophy, stages with musical performers, and well, lots of those interesting people from all over the country. The following spring, Jim even accompanied me to another one of those festivals in those same California mountains. Ask him about it sometime. Heck, our own Camp de Bonneville Pines puts on a yoga camp every fall that I attended once with Bill Dugan the year before COVID. I have connected with yoga groups in Facebook that have people from all over the world. Had it not been for COVID, I could have attended a men's yoga retreat in Greece last fall in September. They are planning it again for this September. Maybe? Well, thank you everyone for your attention. Go and be mindful. Namaste.
Oh, Mark, that was wonderful. I've heard several times, but that was really moving. Thank you. What a great addition to our month of mindfulness. It's time to share our mission statement. As Paul places our mission statement slide on the screen, please join me in reciting our wonderful missions. We agree to provide a safe place, celebrate diversity, draw inspiration for living better lives, foster social and environmental justice, and compassionately support each other in our spiritual service. So many people involved in making the service possible. Thank you for each contribution and for each person attending today. In closing, I would like to share with you a brief story that has a beautiful reminder and a nice lesson. When we go out into the woods and we look at trees, when we see all different types of trees, we discover that some of them are bent, some of them are straight, and some of them are evergreens, and some of them are whatever. As we observe each tree, look at each tree, we allow it. We appreciate it. We easily recognize the beauty of each tree. We see why it is the way it is. We sort of understand that perhaps it didn't get enough light, and so it turned out that way. And we don't get all emotional about it, we just allow it. We appreciate the tree as it is. Yet, the minute we get near humans, unfortunately, we too often lose all that acceptance and appreciation of differences. And we too often declare that you're to this, or I'm to this. A judging mind sets in. A wonderful practice is to attempt to turn people into trees. We've learned to appreciate them just the way they are. I love this analogy. It invites us to remember and appreciate each other, to be kind to each other, and to see past our judgments, opinions, and preconceived notions about each other. What a wonderful spiritual practice it could be if we all practice turning people into trees, therefore giving them what we almost want, love and acceptance, just the way we are. This week, may we choose to practice like this as best we can and hold close these words so eloquently spoken by the Dalai Lama, who said, "What is love? Love is the absence of judgment." Namaste. And now we will listen to our post.